Today we have a special guest. My name is Pablo Betancourt, and I'm the Industry Development Manager in Huawei for the Western European region in enterprise business. Today we have two special guests. The first is Ms. Marina Gorin-Jabor. She is the SME and Digital Transformation Consultant, which has more than 30 years experience in the ICT industry. She has held several positions from research engineer to consultant senior manager. She was the innovation leader and head of IBM Global Industry Solution Center in Paris, and she has worked with clients globally. She has implemented and lead several projects, especially in the Central European region and also in the Middle East. She has established two of the state-of-art innovation and industry client centers, which are in Dubai and also in Abu Dhabi. She has helped to define different customer roadmaps and also implement methodologies which design thinking and also complete POCs and prototyping for the latest technology as we know as cloud computing, artificial intelligence, IoT, and data analytics. Our second guest is Mr. Hong En Ko. He's Global Chief Public Services Industry Scientist. Unfortunately, today he is traveling in the Middle East, but he has recorded his session, and he is a very recognized expert globally. Mr. Ko is actually a former Singapore government official who have led several smart city projects and also Singapore nationwide mega e-government projects. He has more than 30 years of experience in public sector and also in ICT operations. Before joining the company, he has worked for more than 16 years in Oracle. And also he is a recognized speaker in the, let's say, in the global level. All through his career, Mr. Hong have been involved in different transformation of the public sector in more than 70 countries. And he also have authored several papers in the digital transformation for the government and public sectors and smart city, which make him the really professional expert for this session today. So we have Marina online. For Mr. Ko, we have recorded his session. So he will be talking regarding how to implement digital transformation in government. So let's start with Mr. Ko, and then we will continue with Marina and some open discussion.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this webinar. My name is Hong En Ko. I'm from Singapore, as you can see from the background. Now, today, I'm going to talk about shaping successful digital transformation. A bit about myself first. I'm from Huawei headquarters. I'm the Global Chief Public Services Industry Scientist. I have more than 30 years of public sector experience, first working in the government of Singapore in different operational positions. And I was even the head of technology of a department in 1995. After that, I joined a Singapore government enterprise to drive the first generation e-government program for Singapore. And thereafter, I was in some American company for 16 years before joining Huawei about 6 years ago. So before we talk about the future, the digital transformation, let's take a look at the history. So back in 1990s, in many countries, Singapore included, we have many different departments in the public sector, right? And at the time, many departments wanted to connect to internet. That sounded very good because you can offer e-government services to the citizens and the visitors and so on. But at the time, I think the Ministry of Finance did not approve it. They denied the budget, mainly for a few reasons. Firstly, because it was a security threat. Can you imagine if everyone has a connection to internet and with the intranet connecting the different government agencies, you may bring threat to the whole government if there's no proper consideration on the security. And secondly, it's a waste of budget. Back then, to connect to internet is not that cheap, so that's not good. And thirdly, most importantly, it's not user-centric. What do I mean by not user-centric? Imagine to open a restaurant back then, a G2B, government to business, right? Basically, you need to apply for many permits and licenses, whether it's fire safety, live entertainment, business logo, kitchen hygiene, food service, food storage, and so on. So if everyone has an internet connection, the poor businessmen still have to log on to many of these sites to get the permits and licenses done. And you look at the government service, a lot of time the transaction with the government are usually means to an end. So these transactions are needed as required by regulation before you open a restaurant, which is the objective, the end. This is why I always say in public sector, the customers are usually unwilling, right? The other example is more G2C, government to citizen. Imagine you want to buy a government apartment. You may need to go to the housing authority to check whether there's an apartment available. But at the same time, you need to provide proof that you have sufficient saving in your provident fund, right? And some places, you may be required to be a married couple before you get priority to buy the housing. So as I said, if everyone has an internet connection, again, the poor couple will have to log in to different agencies to get the work done. And why don't we just have a centralized service to buy an apartment? And this is what we meant by being user-centric. So the way government is organized is transparent to the couple, right? The other example is G2B, government to business. Now, typically, when you want to import or export something into a country or out of a country, the unwilling customers are the freight forwarder, the transportation provider, the port operator, and the trader. And you have to deal with so many different government agencies before you can import or export something. So to make this unwilling customer happy, many countries for many years already implemented the single window system. So the idea is the same, it's a one-stop service. So the way the government is organized is transparent. But again, these people are still unwilling. They are happier, but they are unwilling. So this is why we are seeing a digital transformation taking place. Since the government collected so much data through the single window system, right? Why don't you build a wider platform? I call it the government enterprise enabling platform. You can include new services such as identity management, security services, document exchange, messaging bars, and so on. And because of this platform, you can actually pull in the seller and buyer as well. This is what I meant G2B2C, government to business to consumer. And because of this ecosystem you created, you can actually invite more other value added service providers, such as financing company to provide loan to the buyer, insurance company to ensure that the goods are indeed transported and imported to the country, and of course, warehouse operator. So in this situation, all these customers are actually becoming willing and happy because they go into this platform not just to submit the documentation as required by the law through the single window system. They get value out from joining this platform, connecting to the seller, connecting to a buyer, and other service provider. And if you look at public sector digital transformation, as I said, there are many types of customers. So what exactly do we mean by digital transformation? It is definitely beyond digitalization, beyond connectivity, going online, cost reduction, and improve ROI. It is very important with the power of data, like what we saw earlier in the example from single window to a platform to promote commerce. We are actually redefining the mission, the organization, the governance, and the process. Or of course, you require new skill sets as well. And basically, in the early stage, you are actually making unwilling customers happy. But by redefining, by improving and bringing values to the end user, the customer, you are making them more willing and happy, of course. Now, if you look at the more detail in terms of the stages of digital transformation, the first stage is always digitization, which is improved efficiency of current services, such as some of the departments allow you to go online to declare things or to apply for permits and so on. Digitalization is where you have new services under the current mission, such as the National Single Window. But the true digital transformation is where you offer new services under enhanced mission. Again, the few examples I gave you earlier. And because of the power of data and artificial intelligence, from the moment you start doing digitalization and digital transformation, we typically will start seeing some intelligence, some automations being used, right? So there are some principles to do digital transformation. Firstly, it is all about people. You want to create the best user experience. In Huawei, we call that ROADS experience, real time, on demand, or online, DIY, and social. Secondly, it has to be service-oriented, people-focused. Basically, it's not departmental-centric. You want to offer based on the scenario, based on the service, based on the people you are serving. And at the same time, you require agility and empowerment. I think over the last 1.5 years, because of COVID-19, we saw agility becoming very crucial when government developed different services and apps to help to control the spread of the COVID-19. Thirdly, we are living in the world of big data. We are talking about information technology, communication technology, CT, and even operational technology, a lot of IoTs and sensors. We need to integrate them in order to do better advanced analytics and artificial intelligence. Last but not least, an open ecosystem. Because end of the day, the service-oriented platform that we created, the data integration we created, we need them to be based on standards to allow innovation and collaboration, to allow more players to join, to develop more advanced services to support digital transformation. Now, there are many use cases. Earlier, I gave you in terms of buying apartment, in terms of opening a restaurant, and of course, doing trading, right? So there are many use cases. End of the day, all of you working in the government, you know your business the best, you know your processes the best, you know how to transform your processes to better serve your customers, right? Now, even though the use cases will be very different, there are common data entities, and I put them as people, object, locations, event, and organization. You need data on these 5 entities in order to achieve digital transformation. So by digital transformation, it's all about managing the data, right? So basically, you need 5 different capabilities. First is how to collect the data, or I call it sense the data, sensing the data. And you need to transmit, to communicate the data. Third, you need to collaborate, because a true digital transformation is usually across borders, across silos. So you need to collaborate between different organizations, even collaboration between the government and private enterprises. Fourth, sense making. You need to answer questions as who is this, what is this, when is this, what is he going to do next, and so on. So this is typically talking about big data and AI. But in public sector, what is very important is finally, you need to make decision making based on the data, the intelligence that you have. For this digital transformation to be successful, it is not just about technology. You need to talk about leadership. Many digital transformation projects fail because there's no top-down leadership to drive the project. Because remember, it changed the redefinition of a governance process and organization. So it's important. Secondly, in your organization, do you have the governance and structure to push it through? Because again, in public sector, usually you have some bureaucracy. You need the leadership to set up the governance and structure, including the performance measurements and so on, to drive through the project. Thirdly, some of these projects involve law and regulation. For sure, it covers cybersecurity law and privacy law and so on. Fourthly, operating model. Do you have the budget to do this as a capital expense, CAPEX project, or you want it to be OPEX, or even using cloud as an example? The fifth, privacy and sovereignty. I already mentioned privacy law, but sovereignty is something becoming hotter. It's a hotter topic. How do you protect data? After all, data is the new oil. Then data strategy. It's important to look at what values you want to create from the data, what data monetization. And with that, you need to talk about the data governance, where to get the data, how to get the data, and do you have the budget to get the data? And after having the data, how do you ensure the high quality throughout the life cycle? And with the data governance, then you start talking about data architecture to plan for the actual enterprise architecture of the ICT system. Of course, last but not least, digital transformation requires technology. And in Huawei, we actually created an integrated intelligence system with collaboration across the cloud, network, edge, and device. We call it the intelligent twins for all scenario intelligence. So it can be supporting digital transformation for public sector, for transportation, for enterprises, for energy, for finance industry, and so on. So from the bottom up, you see at the bottom, we need the sensing capability. Here we are talking about different sensors, not just cameras, but even robots, drones, and even the utility meters and so on. But what is important, because we want the integration convergence, you need some intelligent interaction. You need operating systems that support collaboration across the cloud, edge, and device. And moving forward, the next operational capability is communicating. This is where you need intelligent connectivity. Obviously, Huawei is very strong in this area, starting with our 5G, our latest Wi-Fi 6, and many possibilities, including microwave and even private broadband for especially for public sector. And for collaborating, this is where the intelligent hub takes place. And it is very much based on cloud computing infrastructure. It can be public cloud or hybrid cloud. So over at this hub, Huawei offers the computing, storage, network security, and even blockchain services. In fact, our cloud has more than 200 services, and the services are not just for infrastructure as a service, but even platform as a service. For example, because of agility and some of your organization have software development capability, they will love our service such that they can roll out applications using very little codes or even no codes at all. And the other very important component to support sense-making operational capability is AI. So in the Huawei cloud, we actually have many AI services. We call them the enterprise intelligence. It includes MapReduce, it includes natural language processing, and so on, many of these services. So when you develop applications above to support decision making, many of these development and AI services are already there for you to use. So with that, I end my presentation. I hope you find it useful. Now, for any further queries, please, you can feel free to contact me. So once again, thank you very much.
So thank you for this presentation from Mr. Hong Eng. Even he couldn't join us today because he was in a business trip. Also, the connectivity was not good for that live session. He laid down all his advice for the government infrastructure. As you can see, he mainly focused in the business layer. He introduces about the government to custom to citizen, government to businesses, and also different infrastructure layers, right? Like the critical factors, OPEX and CAPEX. So for this session, we will be sharing on internet, as someone asked in the chat. So later you can also review it again and also understand different topics he have talked there. But we also have Marina Guerin Jabor, and today she will introduce us also a more deep layer of the understanding of the government, not only in the business but also in the technology. So I invite Marina to present his session, and thank you.
Thank you, Pablo. Let me share my presentation. Okay. You see it, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so I am indeed going to introduce a little bit or talk a little bit deeper about some scenario-based solutions for domains of government. But before that, actually, I will go through some trends as well. And I may repeat what my colleague has said in a different way. But anyhow, it's just to confirm that there are new trends indeed coming and reshaping the digital transformation for government. So society and people are getting more demanding and the pressure is mounting on governments. So the citizens, they are expecting more from government, and actually we want the same convenient, personalized experiences from our government as the same way that we do when we plan a trip, for example, or we order our supply online. So the time has come for government to rethink, as my colleague said, their business. So the digital transformation creates this capability for government to address the rising citizen expectation by providing services that are first of all personalized and constantly adapting to be more responsive. Secondly, accessible and seamlessly delivered to the citizen. And finally, citizen-driven to enhance the interaction between the citizen and governments. And that is true as regional and central level for our government. So digital technologies are seen as mean to improve delivery of public services, as we say, by reducing costs and bridging the communication gap with the citizen. It will definitely lead towards an economic recovery. And that would happen, and again, my colleague has mentioned it, in three main areas. First of all, the efficient governance. Central and regional governments need efficient business processes and sustained lower operation costs. It means also that all the tasks and services, they are delivered with more seamless integration between the different agencies of the government. And these agencies will become resilient and ready for the future changes. I don't know if you see my screen correctly. Yes. And the second...
yes, Marina, yes, we can see.
Yeah, thank you. And the second area is enhancing the livelihood. So all the government, really, they share a common objective and mission. They want to provide core fundamental services to citizens and improve their living quality and create a healthier and more resilient society. The third area is the vibrant economy. Of course, when government will ensure a efficient governance and when they be able to enhance the quality of life or their society, will definitely increase the competitiveness, attract talent and investment, and lead towards greater and growth economies. So, again, I am repeating a little bit what my colleague said. What are the factors to success this digital transformation? For public sector, there are unique challenges to this digital transformation. Like, for example, public sector has longer approval cycles than average or than a private, right? Public sector has less comfort with non-clear outcomes for citizens. There are, again, additional level of confidentiality and data security. On top of that, government now more and more, they are requested to provide quick and urgent services, as we saw during the pandemic. And also they have a new need to share the information between interagency. So to achieve the success, government leaders should consider four main important factors. The first one is the citizen-centric services to improve the citizen experiences. It means for government to really focus effort to transform their underlying operations and the processes using the citizen users experience as the design point. And again, my colleague, he pointed that how much is important really that government should learn from their citizen interaction and proactively engage the citizen through consultations or referendum or something like this, to really put the user experience of the citizen as the design point. The second factor is the transforming of the operation. Government need to embed the use of the technologies and digital insight within new processes to transform their core operations and modernize systems. Again, like, for example, using IoT, using machine learning, using the blockchains and other technologies. This helped government to establish evidence-based decision-making, that was said as well, and the trend-based redesign. So that would lead to automation and modernization of the operation that become really easier and cost-effective. The third factor is modernizing talent and culture. The government employees need to understand the citizen perspective and apply the technique to adapt services to processes. So they need to understand the technologies. They need to understand what does it mean digital transformation in order to improve their work. That also impact how government is measuring the performance of their employees and recognizing the performances of their employees. So governments, first of all, need to work on transforming their employees' skills and modernizing it. But not only that, government needs to attract new talent, hire young and digital-oriented employees. And in order to attract these employees, government needs to provide them, attract them not only by financial compensation, but attract them by providing a new way to work, collaborative ways, remote work, etc., etc. The last but not least factor, and that also has been said by my colleague, is the IT infrastructure and architecture. Actually, government operations are transformed continuously, and the supporting IT architecture must be adaptable to an evolving set of requirements for service delivery. It should have, for example, the capability of data management, digital technology, compute-intensive workloads. More and more government are facing this change and variation of the workloads. So the choices of the IT infrastructure should be open, flexible, scalable, and resilient to change. Now, these previous factors are essential to be taken in consideration by governments. Why? Because they need to use this digital transformation and the factors in there to elevate social and economic value. These values are materialized as most important service public, convenient and smooth administration services. Indeed, we all have today access to our administration services by single window or by websites. But doesn't mean that we are happy with it. We are still struggling with complicated procedures or lack of information related, for example, to the taxes, how we fill our taxes, what are the new taxes law, how we get informed about that, how we get informed about, for example, the public transportation changes, the billing, the utility invoices billing procedures. Some of them, they are still standalone, etc., etc. The social economic value is the second, economic value is the social service. That is a very important value for citizens that governments need to improve by personalizing and optimizing these services. And government cannot do this personalization or optimization without having a full comprehension and coordination of the citizen cases. The third one is what the consequences of the climate change. So regional and central governments are really facing more and more natural disasters. They need to be able to respond immediately by providing the right decision at the right time. They also need to be able to enhance the inter-agencies and jurisdiction collaboration. When we have a natural disaster, social services are impacted, hospitals are impacted, transportations are impacted, etc. So a good coordination is the right way to mitigate the disaster threat. Of course, public health care. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that one. The pandemic showed us how it is important that the government needs and be able to share the medical information and the situation of the public health, not only with citizens, but with the all health organization, and how important it is to provide health services as well as efficient supply chain management about the medical equipment and medicine. Not to forget the education, more and more, and again, we saw it during this year, the education model are changing. And these new models require robust connectivity and infrastructure for school and higher education. Government need to ensure at national level and regional level also this high broadband connectivity. Finally, the sustainable environment. So again, with the climate change, digital transformation can help government to manage in a smart way the energy and utility, help the transition toward the green and new energy with less carbon impact. So we mentioned how important the quality of used data. Today, we still miss a huge amount of data, which is not created and not used. And why it is not used? Because it is not sensed at 100%. It's not actually collected, neither aggregated or analyzed. So a well-designed infrastructure with IoT, for example, or equipment and tool to sense this data will unlock the full value of this data and will help governments to develop better services. The second, I would say, element that government needs to take in consideration during the transformation is to break the barriers for deeper collaboration. There was identification indeed of legacy systems at government agencies that are running outdated programming languages or unsupported hardware and software, and operating with known security vulnerabilities. So that could touch the whole social values like education, health, social services, transportation, etc. So governments need to adapt and adopt, right? So these old systems are, yes, still running, but many of them needs to be modernized in order to provide better services to citizens. And we know that this modernization is really moving toward a cloud data centers. The third factor, or the third element, also my colleague mentioned that quickly. Yes, unlocking the data and modernizing the infrastructure are essential, but they have to be part of a whole environment of ecosystem. So we need a smart collaboration environment within the government, that gather private research, investment, and of course public. This smart environment is an incubator for creativity and innovation and new ideas for public happiness and citizen happiness. Finally, adopting agile and innovative methodologies across the public organization is the right way. As public sector now needs to launch services very quickly, so they need really to use new methodologies to develop, like for example, agile or DevOps, to develop new services, a new application, and rolling it out quickly. And this is the only way for government to meet demands and expectation of the citizen. And what is the digital government overall vision, right? So this slide, it shows us, as we see, how we elevate the services. These services, they need to become smart. So smart affairs, smart facilities, smart healthcare, smart education, and they become smart because they would use the latest or the cutting edge technologies. Each of these domains is based or is using a scenario-based solution, getting or unlocking the data or using the available data. And these data needs to be, of course, unlocked, stored, sorted, cleaned, analyzed, and then used and communicated. This is what Huawei last generation product of the infrastructure, such as storage, for example, or government. Let me hide that one. A cloud data center and connectivity can offer to government in order to ease this access. One slide about the connectivity. Okay, let's have a quick look on Huawei simplified, resilient, high quality, secured, and intelligent network solution for government. The solution is fully connected to government digital services and has forward-looking design and architecture that support the rapid future vision for the government. I'm not going to go really into details for these kind of technical specification, but let me mention some of them. For example, this solution of network, it has a simplified protocols and unified connectivity deployment, right? It has, for example, a very high hardware reliability, up to 99.99%. It has full service routers with very large capacity, indeed the largest capacity in the industry. Fast service provisioning, multi-dimensional network visualization, and intelligent optimization, and so on and so on. Briefly, what I want to say that this network solution, it has a complete, as we mentioned, setup to help government build their capability, and capacity to manage the data, capture the data, manage it, and make it ready for the next stage of the architecture of IT solutions. Okay, as I mentioned, each of the social value can be actually enhanced with digital solution. Here I am going to present as example 2 scenario-based solution, one for the tax and revenues and one for the social services. Okay, so more and more countries are evolving towards digital tax through digital tax reforms. So we are talking about really intelligent tax. So let me give you example of the China's Golden Tax Project, for example. So the Chinese government has increased the proportion of tax revenue to GDP by 3% and reduced the collection cost by 47%. The project consisted of 4 phases. First phase called it was about establishing a preliminary tax system to realize electronic tax filing. So simple as it. The second phase, was about establish a network to centralize at province level in China, in different province level, the collection and management of taxes. It helped to build a VAT and tax fraud detection systems and other automated systems. The third phase, it was about data-based taxation. So it was about centrally collect and manage data across the country at national level and not only at provincial and regional level, and unify the data standards, establish a platform for a unified application. And finally, the ongoing phase today, it's about what we call the intelligent taxation, right? It is about service cloudification, data-driven, quasi-real-time data synchronization, etc., etc. It uses really AI as technology, so to capture more data and analyze this data and help decision making. It uses instant messages. It goes through multi-channel delivery. So as a taxpayer, I am happy and willing to use any channel that I want to, for example, declare my taxes or pay my taxes. Right? No, how that was done in general. So this transformation evolution went from the tax filling on the counter processing to palm-handed tax, going to palm-handed tax processing. So during this process, the tax handling has changed from limited available hours of on-the-counter business to 24/7 on-the-go business, which is the mobile tax filling, without any one operation. So the services are changing indeed and going faster. So ICT infrastructure has to be changed and has to be aligned to these changes, shifting from traditional architecture, first of all, to cloud architecture and microservices based architecture to get faster transactions and reliable operations. Also, that is naturally impose higher requirement on the storage infrastructure, as we see. So, which is improved again by higher performances and more reliable. So, for example, in the first era, which is on the counter tax handling, due to the counter restriction and data silo constriction, so the requirements are low, which means single service storage. On the online tax filing, the services are online, so there are some more application data shared, bringing service surge in peak hours. So the services started to run 24/7. So the data sharing make data storage more critical, requiring higher business continuity. And finally, the mobile tax filing or the intelligent tax, as I mentioned, it's really the tax payment through multiple channels. And the data is centralized using a cloud infrastructure. Tax processing is anytime, anywhere. So it fundamentally need higher performance storages and more reliable equipment. The second example that I am going to go through is the social services. So the International Social Services Service Association, ISSA, proposes 10 global challenges to the social security, ICT, and digitalization and modernization. These 10 global challenges can be divided into 4 categories. The first one is actually the reduction of the social security income. Many reasons that the social security incomes are really decreasing. First of all, that countries are facing, and in particular in Europe, but not only in Europe, are facing the problem of aging population. In addition to that, there is low participation, for example, from the insurance or from the individual and enterprises. There is a lack of systematic and long-term mechanism for business supervision. All these reasons are part of this social security income reduction. The second category or the second challenge is the inefficient compensation, including social service fraud and insurance fraud. And we know it happens, at every insurance service in every country. Also, the social administration cannot, in some cases, respond quickly to the people and enterprises, which resulting in low satisfaction from the population. And also many social services bureau, they have complex processes or manual data or very still paper, plain paper to send. So that cannot quickly provide basic benefit for the citizen. The third challenge is the low coverage of branches in most countries, and in particular in the rural area or where there are not a lot of population, there are no social services bureau or offices. So this is also, part of the challenges that the social services administration is facing. So that needs to be improved. In addition, these social systems are not centralized, so data cannot be shared at one time due to the lack of streamlining mechanism. The third challenge is the slow launch of the new product, which is, again, one of the challenges of how the public sector needs to change their methodology to develop and launch new products. And if they are doing it, the infrastructure is getting old, and they are not following, again, this new launch, the new products or the new services and application for the citizen. So the information service solution that Huawei proposed for social services is really based on what we call all-in-one network and one office for all services, right? So the online all-in-one network relies on channels such as websites, online service halls, mobile application. The online service halls is, for example, a website that people can access from anywhere, maybe from malls or a supermarket or even post offices, etc., or even from your from our individual account bank, for example. And the office and the offline one office for all services means that all public services of social security can be handled in a unified manner in any offline service hall again. So that means that we have a public service platform, unified public service platform, where it collected the one network, the one services from one network, the all services from one office, maybe, or all services at one time, and of course all services with one card, with one social security card, right? So the new forms of the social service transformation rely on a new infrastructure of smart social services bureau, for example, or new infrastructure technically using again a cloud or a unique platform. This is really the foundation for the future smart social services. So this new infrastructure has 6 pillars. It relies on standard library and all-in-one service card. And of course, we talked most importantly about the unified infrastructure cloud pool, which which is very powerful within our solution. Intelligent data lake, how we get this data, how we use it, and trusted service chain and open ecosystem. With that, I end my presentation. Let me stop sharing. I hope that was enough, as example to give an idea about how the digital transformation unlock the social value and make the citizen happy, and how important it is.
Thanks a lot, Marina, for this insightful presentation. I highlight some key points here. You mentioned something very important regarding the government strategy for the recovery, which at the beginning of your presentation also, if we put together with what Mr. Cole mentioned, one key point is to create new policies for business to reopen and also for incentivate maybe new ideas. But at the same time, these new policies need to attract new talents, not only from the country, but maybe from different places. So these new talents can create more job opportunities for the recovery, and they can reactivate the businesses so the economy can start to back to the previous pandemic and maybe levels.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you mentioned that this is needed. The government need to adapt, also use a modernization of the systems and have a strong ecosystem to, in fact, to be able for these businesses also to reactivate the economy. And for this, the ICT infrastructure can help to support not only the government infrastructure but also the businesses to create a new online and also maybe e-commerce and other kind of ideas. Then you focus on two main, let's say, solutions, so kind of government services, which is intelligent taxation and also intelligent social services, which is in fact maybe two cases or two use cases we take today in the webinar. But as you know, as also the customer online, we know there are several other services inside the government. Just we don't want to have like very long webinars, so we want to keep in short to two maybe use cases. And as you mentioned, for example, for intelligent taxation, in fact, one of the key functionalities, or at least in our experience from different customers around in Europe and also in globally, is they usually need a lot of storage. This is key. Okay, everyone needs storage at this moment, but they also need low latency to have a fast response for this kind of data, so the accessing and also the customer have quick response in the applications and also in the website. But at the same time, this system need to be very reliable. And some actually some feature that we get a lot, the customer get very happy about our storage equipment is we have a 1+8 protection. So we don't have like, we have several cores. Even your system fails several times, you still have online and super reliable storage system, which is very, I mean, we get a good feedback regarding this kind of applications. You also mentioned about social services. Also, usually they need a high performance storage, but at the same time, all connected, all networking, as you mentioned, uh, is important. And for this, we also have to interconnect several offices at the government level. In fact, as many of our customers know why, because of the connectivity, we have all the core infrastructure, route, router, switching. Besides that, we can also see, for example, behind me is the RNG, which is focusing in the Wi-Fi 6. But in fact, the Wi-Fi 6 is just the connectivity layer. We have a whole solution which we call the smart campus solution, which not only include the Wi-Fi but also the core switch and as well the management, which can use artificial intelligence for software-defined networks to help to decrease the operation cost of the networking inside the government. Uh, Other important fact regarding this is sometimes government don't have the capability of develop this kind of networking, so they will use let's say IT companies or IT departments that belong to government, and for them this kind of let's say centralized management using artificial intelligence is very important because facilitates the quick service operation of different departments in governments and also create different accessing and policing for the end users. um, I really thank you, Marina, and also even Mr. Ko. He's not online, but he's have very insightful presentation as well at the business level. I want to ask you, Marina, if you have any final thoughts you would like to highlight to our customer online, something you want them to remember about our webinar or solutions or the government business for closing this session today.
Thank you, Pablo. You really resumed what I presented, and I added insights about the products. Yeah, I didn't want to make the presentation long. However, I mentioned that the government needs to transform a lot of areas, so core operations, their way to do the services, make it citizen-centric, put the citizen as the first point of design, like any other private company does, right? And change the way that the IT department within the government are launching or developing their application. And of course, being part of an open ecosystem. Now, what does it mean? Let's start by having the citizen at the center of the design. Services from government has to be and must be similar to what the private are providing, which means how make me as consumer to my public services happy. So I think part of this transformation need to start it with using agile methodology of designing the services before developing it, like design thinking methodologies, for example. And this part of consultancy will come when government, and they are doing it, some of them are part of this innovative ecosystem. For example, technology providers like us, we can really start the work on this citizen user experience, let's call it like this, early with the government, provide them support with this new consultancy methodology, design thinking, agile methodology to study and come up with bold and innovative ideas. And of course, work with them maybe to put a roadmap of a rollout of these services in particular domain or in multiple domain. And we saw that all these services are interconnected. Social is interconnected to health, is interconnected to, for example, emergency response capabilities. So all this interaction between the multi-agency would come when we put the citizen in the center and when we use the new consultancy methodology to understand what the citizen is really expected from government. So what I would like to say, we in Huawei have these capabilities to really discuss with government, regional agencies and institutions and public in Europe, start this discussion and help them to put their citizen in the center of their user experience.
Thank you, Marina. It means we have experience, and we can also not only focus in the let's say in the technology at the end, but in the development of the use case since the beginning to define which kind of technology they can use for future implementations.
Exactly. And of course, that also to be done with the public sector ecosystem and partnership and partners, public and the private, and researchers and the universities as well, and all what can help to create and to be the incubator of this innovative ideas.
Thank you, Marina. Thank you for your time.